Kia ora. Welcome back to, or if you haven't joined before, Lightroom Forecast. This is the reading, and it's a collective reading for this new moon in Aquarius. Usually I go through all the signs, but I have had a break lately, so I'm coming back in with this new moon in Aquarius. It's quite a kind of zingy time in a lot of respects, quite electrical. We feel it, especially today. It's actually, we're right on it here. And so let's get into the reading. We're just doing a general collective reading, as I said. And if you like this channel, do subscribe, like, share, all of that kind of stuff, because it helps to let the videos be seen by more people. So for a change, I'm sitting in my workroom here. Let's see what's on the storyline, what's on the storyboard today for this new moon in Aquarian time. A lot of stuff going on in the world has been maybe dominating all of our lives, actually. So let's just see. I've got a few decks here. I will pull, actually, before we begin, I will pull a rock, mineral, and crystal card that we might just be able to keep in our mind's eye over the next couple of weeks until the full moon. Has a guide. Let's see. We'll get these cards out. And I've got a few other decks here to clarify, just to get underneath things a little bit more at this point in time, because it is all about this point in time. So let's see here. We come out appropriately, I guess, with the moon. Now there's a lot of elements within the moon card. Sometimes we are illuminated. We are, in fact, feeling illuminated from within ourselves individually. Dark of the moon, a new moon, is where there's very little light, and sometimes, obviously, it takes a week or so for that crescent to appear in the sky, that beautiful silvery crescent of the moon. But initially it's quite dark. Now, you know, the moon card really looks at what we're conscious of, what we're not that conscious of. Sometimes we are walking through some quite dark valleys within this card. But we always know that at some point it becomes very full and very clear. Try and keep it to this idea of a collective reading here. What does that mean collectively? Some things we're conscious of, some things we're not. Sometimes we see what is in essence a truth, and sometimes we don't. We come up next with the High Priestess, a wonderful card suggesting over this time, at this time, that the veils are pretty thin in terms of being able to access insight, in terms of being able to access collectively guidance, collective guidance, and even individual guidance. The High Priestess has a lot of information for you, and in turn collectively a lot of information for the collective. Now that word collective has been bandied about more and more and more, and I have noticed it, strangely enough, in the last week, just listening to the news or listening to in Aotearoa here, I was listening to RNZ, particular shows, but people are becoming aware of that collective, the concept that we are all connected. It's difficult to sometimes have that in the forefront of our minds, because we have, on an individual level, all those things that we deal with daily, weekly in a lifetime. But the High Priestess, in her purest form, is in essence, a kind of access point, an access point where we get to see some hidden things, whether that's about ourselves or the collective in general. Let's keep going. I'm slowing up a bit here. So we know what's going on in the world if we haven't been living in an isolated manner. We know what generally is sort of going on at the moment, don't we? We have the Five of Wands coming up, which is a card of conflict. I would say on an individual level, often we need conflict. Often it's more conflict with ourselves. We need it in order to work through things, in order to have a handle on what negotiation and conflict resolution is all about. Within going through those processes, we learn. We might learn some things about our own operation, how we operate. When we are confronted, we're also beating the mat here to see what lies underneath. I wouldn't say there's not a conflict here as such between what I'm getting, the self, and the information that we are being given or that is around us. Did I say we're not seeing a conflict between that? We are actually, because one starts to not trust one's own guidance. In the end, we go about our business, don't we? We have to keep ourselves buoyant. We need to do the things that give us joy, that keep us buoyant, and all of that kind of thing. Anyway, so that Five of Wands is about beating sticks up against each other, but there is many productive things that come out of that. Oh, I think I'm always having problems with the microphone. And then, of course, but we see it here, the Nine of Swords. We ourselves are our own worst adversaries. It starts in the one and is filtered out to the whole. This is what we're always talking about. The one is in the all is in the one. And if you check out other videos on this channel, you'll, if you don't understand that idea, you will. The Nine of Swords is a harsh card, and it's generally directed, that harshness of the mental faculty. We slay ourselves before we slay others, but it can be a never-ending cycle that we are in. To understand that those, the power of our own ability to slay ourselves is usually projected outward too. So this card, which is traditionally of nightmares, of unfounded worry and catastrophizing, is something we need to understand. So let us clarify. It's sort of a little bit, in some ways, self-explanatory, isn't it? We'll clarify. We've got the Morgan Greer deck, which I do like. And then we'll get a Brian Froud Pixie and Fairy. A few cards from the Pixies and Fairies for a little bit of a insight. So we're looking at the moon. Here we have it. Moon, High Priestess, who is very connected to that moon. Conflict in the sense of will, individual will. What is our collective sort of will? What are we seeing out there in the world? We're looking at conflict with the Five of Wands. maybe understanding a lot of aspects about ourselves. When we see the conflict in the world, we can mirror that back again, can't we? Backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. 9 of Swords, card of the mind, a card of self-harm in some way. Catastrophizing, nightmares, a cyclical pattern of thought that really doesn't do us any good. We understand it. In some ways too, what I find interesting about the 9 of Swords is that all the 9s are really about sort of a completion and also largely about independence. So we stand there as individuals in that 9, in the number 9. Anyway, let us look. We're looking at the moon, beautiful moon, autumn of the moon. What is this moon speaking of at this time of a new moon where there is darkness in the sky? We are referring back possibly to our ancestry, our ancestors, in order to summons up that kind of bright spark of direction, bright spark of buoyancy. I say this, we have the Queen of Wands, a very, you could say, ego-driven character, but is simply a representation of a queen who knows what she wants, and forget about gender, he or she, whatever, knows what she wants and how to go and get it. It's a very driven card. This is all about fire, lighting, encouraging the sparks of that, of understanding your true nature maybe, or those things that, to strive for those things, encourage those things in your life that give you joy and passion and pleasure and drive. With that, as I said, oh, a little birdie getting banging into the window then. As I said, ancestry. Here we have the 10 of Discs, a wonderful card. We are surrounded by all of those resources, all of those things that make us up, the things we value, the people we value, all of that. It does refer back to genetic lines, to ancestral lines. You know, over the last month or two, maybe a lot of people have been remembering, have been going back through their familial lines. Even it doesn't have to be genetic, as you may well be adopted into a family, whatever it is. That is your line. We learn all these things. We are given and taught values, a value system. Sometimes the loyalty to our family, our loyalties alter maybe because of certain things. But in the end, we go back in order to understand, the impact of that, of those early years, pretty much. We can tweak some things. We can maybe choose to alter certain things. All of that. These are in the realms of, the subconscious mind in a lot of respects. It's when we give, or should I say put energy into that, is into understanding that line and its impact on where we are at today. That's where we become more conscious of certain things. The High Priestess sits here next to the moon. And the High Priestess is allowing certain important information to be seen beyond her beautiful veil. We're talking, is what I'm seeing here, a two-way street, a two-way street, two-way street. 3 cards to come out to clarify or to give us a little bit more background behind this High Priestess within these 4 cards that we started out here with. We have that two-way street, the mutual nature of the 6 of Discs. It is generosity, but it's not generosity given like in a contract where you know something is going to come back to you. It's a shimmying and a shammying along that white line in the middle of that two-way street, and it's a really nice flow because we are generous. And walking that white line in that two-way street, we see a flow in that, just like a tidal wave, tidal movement, that things come to us if we are open, if we are generous. And in that nice way, where it is a reciprocal, mutual thing, it attracts people of like. And if now is not a time where it's important to, know your own needs and what you require, and the people that you choose to have input with, hang out with, in a simple sense, a high or a rising tide should raise all ships. This is what it's all about. Anyway, I'm digressing here. It's been a while, actually. It's probably been about 2.5 months, if you've not tuned into the channel before, since I have done a reading on this channel anyway. Anyway, so I do digress a bit sometimes. So we're looking at the High Priestess, the two-way street of generosity here. We connubulate, we congregate with those of like mind. We want all of those people we care about, we want to see them succeed in whatever way is their way. We want also, speaking collectively, we also want to maybe afford that level of generosity to people we do not know. And this is something that's difficult for humans. Anyway, we had 3 cards for the High Priestess. As I said, the next card is the Strength card, a beautiful card because here we refer back to that moon at the beginning, and we see that we start to understand the difference between ego and psyche. We start to understand, we temper our nature, our quite sometimes quite base, quite basic nature. We temper it, we tame it, but more importantly, we start to understand it and how it plays out. And within that understanding, within that awareness and being conscious as much as we can, we sort of have elevated ourselves, and we're operating with very clear intentions and clear motivations, and this makes things run pretty smoothly, our relationships, all of that sort of thing. But of course it's a life work, isn't it, like everything. So the Strength card is a special and wonderful card in my mind, because every action has an impact, and not just one, but a domino effect of which we don't necessarily see the whole story play out in every word we speak, in every action we make. And the strength card is talking about that too. Last but not least, the big kahuna, the magician here. We do hold that wand. We are shimmying and shammying here. The understanding of our, as I said, intentions, motivations, our will. The centre of our will is represented in that wand. So we've got all the tools here that we need, that are required at this time of this new moon in Aquarius. Let's look at the Five of Wands, please. General collective reading. General collective reading now. So we're seeing here, we're looking at the Five of Wands. Five of Wands, conflictual moment, sorting out the chaff from the oats. We've got again 3 cards, speaking quite loudly here. King of Pentacles, a benevolent, generous, a great drive to look after others here. Of course, there's another side to it, which is sort of covetous, I guess, and power, maybe power plays, all of that sort of thing. Sometimes in times of conflict, in times of, you know, you know, I just remember these images, if you've seen it, was something like there was a mouse, I'm sure they happen all the time, mouse plague somewhere in the outback in Australia, and they're picking up corrugated sheets of iron, and the waves, you know, like a school of fish really, the waves of mice fly in all directions. Sometimes it's good to take time out if our world seems somewhat overwhelming, things flying in all different directions. We have the Hanged Man, so we know that this willing retreat, it's actually more about minimizing external stimuli, information. You know, you can control that yourself individually. By doing that, we see Hanged Man mode. The reason why we go into Hanged Man mode, or in fact collectively we go into Hanged Man mode, like, this is all a bit overwhelming. All of this information, all of this stimuli. You know, the only person that can take responsibility for that is the individual, isn't it? Is a choice. But the reason why we go into here without, oh God, I sound like a bloomin' preaching something, and I don't mean to. Reasons why we go in here to Hanged Man is because, liken it to a chrysalid, we come out, because we always come out of this place with a different perspective, maybe a new perspective. You know, that little caterpillar who goes up and does its thing, you know, in the chrysalid, it basically liquefies itself. Don't ask me the scientific process, because I couldn't tell you. it liquefies itself and is, in fact, as it comes out, the other side of the chrysalid as a butterfly. It probably doesn't, if you could imagine it probably doesn't actually remember being a little caterpillar, because now it's flying. It's like a complete shift. So in the hangman's zone, we come out with a different perspective. And looking at, so, say to be quite specific here, looking at that Five of Wands, a card of conflict, a clashing of wills. We have that benevolent king, ideally. Territory comes into that too. Sharing. Negotiations. Hangman, shifting the perspective. Then we come to the third card of clarification, Seven of Wands. Now, if we are to, now there's something very good about standing up for one's integrity and beliefs, but what we need here is to be wary. We need both feet on the ground here. And is this habitual? Is it something to do with our history in terms of familial history, genetic, ancestral history? Because it can relate to that. Seven of Wands. So we get into this habit of always feeling that we have to stand up for our principles, stand up for our integrity. Yeah, we do. But what happens when it becomes a default habit? When there's not been a lot of conscious thought or awareness put into that. And then let's look at the Nine of Swords. This reading may well be a little bit disjointed, but that's sometimes the way it works. Do check out any other videos that stand out, titles that stand out for you. There's about 909 of them on this channel. So there's plenty to choose from, and not necessarily time crucial. So we've got the Nine of Swords. Did I say the Nine of Wands? Nine of Swords. A card that can be quite harming. Ourselves, I mean. Catastrophic thoughts. It's like the cloud of doom that sometimes is just there, but there's no reason to feel gloomy and doomy. But sometimes the cloud of doom is just hanging around for a while, Worry, anxiety. It's a seems to be a almost epidemic-like, isn't it? Anxiety these days. It's no wonder though. So anyway, and again we get three. We seem to be getting three clarifying cards coming out for each one. So we've got the Nine of Swords here. Traditionally, you'll see this card with a person sitting up in bed, probably at about 2 a.m. with a series of 9 swords sort of hanging over them in the Thoth deck. It is, there's a bit of bloodletting going on there. So we come out here, as I say, I'm going on a bit, aren't I? We come out with 3 clarifying cards. The 5 of discs to begin with. Now we're looking at the consummate victim card. We're looking at the consummate, I do like that word, card of lack. Now the figures walking by the beautiful lit up building or church or whatever, traditionally. We could go in there. We don't need to hobble past and not seek assistance. This is a default habit also, is accepting lack. overgain, and also been burdened by a level of victimization. Now, the victim archetype, speaking of archetypes, we all have it. It's like a collective imprint, template, whatever word is appropriate, a collective template. We all share it. And the Five of Discs is, it's a hard one to sometimes see how you play it out in your life. Sometimes lack over gain. The Star. We are simply healing. People say the star dreams wishes coming true. Yeah, because when we go through a process of healing, we see those dreams and wishes as being a true thing, as being an achievable thing. And we also have created a kind of bridge between ourselves and to the higher cosmos, our higher guidance, our high guidance, whatever that is for you, whether it's an external thing or an internal thing. It's a beautiful card, the Star. We see the ladies up there above the figure mixing the waters. There's a reference to Ganymede within this card, but I won't go into that story. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Ganymede. So there's a great connection here. It's a wonderful Aquarian card. So appropriate that it comes up for this new moon in Aquarius. Healing. Are we healing collectively this? Well, who would know? And then 10 of Wands, a burden that needs to be released. So you could say everything's on hand, certainly on an individual level. We know how to proceed. But this it kind of, that last few cards, it really does sum up that idea that we are our own worst adversaries. It is understanding how that victim archetype plays out in our lives, because often the victimized turns into the bully. Healing and releasing a burden. And the 10 of Wands, we are at the end of a cycle and we just need to let that go. There's a lot of new and different ways of operating in this world, individually and collectively, that sometimes things need to be let go of in order to bring in something new. So let's see, Brian Froud's Fairy Oracle here. Can you give us a glimmer? Maybe just a couple or a few. Maybe just a couple or a few. So we hear the call. We all know. We hear the call. Crossing a threshold, crossing a point. That, this is a liminal space, this time. It's accelerating. Everything's accelerating. And this year will be a very interesting year. 24, 25, 26, I think. Very interesting in terms of what's going on technologically, obviously. What is going on? So we have the piper, we hear the call. It's a beautiful song. It's a tone. It has the power, you know, to neutralize, to direct. It's all of those things in one big tonal vibration, right? But we are within that crossing a threshold, and what do we choose to take with us into this next period or phase? I mean, we do ask that of ourselves, do we not, when we are going through a lot of change in our lives? And of course, the world is going through a lot of change at the moment. It's important to, when we see Tao Om the poet coming up here, a very fast moving energy, a very beautiful energy, a very focused figure, very focused and direct. Now, that beautiful card, but you know, there's an Aryan, as an Aryan sort of compulsion to just of speed here. We see the little over time, the wee wounds, the little grazes and scratches, which do not put on the poet off striving for focus and beauty and all of that kind of thing. And then, of course, the undressing of a salad. There's a lot going on. It's very Jupiterian, I feel, this card to be, and a lot of juggling. There's a lot of juggling, but everything's been kept up in the air there. Everything's kept buoyant. Some funny way all it takes is one of those balls, bubbles to be dropped. So we're running with the ball, people. We're running with that ball. And here we come to the end of this, what is a collective reading, but it always kind of sounds like it could be related back to the personal, of course. Rock, mineral, and crystal to keep in your mind's eye over the next week or so until the next full moon. We have a beautiful crystal here, celestite, communicating with angels, tranquility, good fortune, and deep meditation. And deep meditation, or any kind of meditation, walking meditation, sitting, however you do it, whatever you find to be meditative, will always be of great assistance and help to us, whatever form it takes. And so that's a beautiful, beautiful crystal or stone to carry in your mind's eye over the next week or so. On that note, thanks for joining me. Thank you for your likes and subscribes, and we'll be back for that full moon. It is in Virgo, is it? I better check my notes. So we'll be back for that with all the astrological signs individually next time. I just came in today with this quick collective reading, but again, thanks for your subscribes, likes, all of that. Check out anything on this channel whose title stands out for you, and have a wonderful week. Take good care, and